jump right into it. This is our 4th episode of Under the Rug podcast with myself, Brian, co-host Korbin Perry. Like I said, we've been co-hosting this, like I said, our 4th episode so far with Under the Rug podcast. Yeah. It's been a good year so far and everything like that. So we can't complain, man. Today we have our special guest and good close professional and just good friend in general, good people, Miss Jen Aalderink, mortgage banker at Stockton Mortgage. So we welcome you, Jen, and everything like that. So welcome to the Under the Rug podcast.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Korbin.
You're welcome.
I love getting under the rug about life, so I'm excited to be here.
That's fantastic.
Yes,
good.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to say this in complete confidence that you are like the best mortgage broker I've met so far. Yeah. Jen is on her game every time I talk to her. You work extremely hard, so we just appreciate you. Just because in this field, obviously, we always know in any field if you're good and if you're bad, you're definitely in that great and that good section for sure in your line of work. So we appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
That's a lot about what the show is about. Some are good, some are bad. I mean, we talk about probably more of the bad than the good, but have the good on to talk about the bad. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agree with that, bro. I think so. Just to kind of reintroduce Under the Rug podcast, we are here and it was put together, like I said, by myself and business partner Korbin. Under the Rug podcast, we talk about the things that take place in business, entrepreneurship, the good and bad that come with it, the ups and downs, the overall goals and struggles of pure entrepreneurship, and just our overall hustle and grind and our motivation. And then we also talk about the things that get swept under the rug from a home inspection standpoint, and just kind of from a general real estate standpoint and everything like that. And having you on the show today, one of the biggest things I kind of wanted to talk about, or just our main focus, is like the overall importance of networking and growing like an overall referral business and following up with clients. I think that's something that we all kind of have in common with all of our businesses and everything like that. But before we kind of dive into that, Ms. Jen, you kind of just mind sharing with the people who you are and exactly what you do.
Absolutely. So I am a Main Street mama turned mortgage banker.
I like that.
Okay?
I like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I started in the mortgage business in the year 2000 as a loan officer assistant.
Okay.
And then I spent a few years in mortgage processing.
Okay.
I've been a mortgage closer. I did construction draw lending.
Oh.
And then most recently, about 5 years ago, I started doing the sales part of loan origination. So I became a mortgage banker. But this has been the industry I've been in my whole life. And I did some math when I was in my 30s. And I said, so I could go back to school and pursue a career and have a whole bunch of student loans.
Spend a bunch of money. Yeah.
Or I could stay in the business I know from head to toe, literally, and get into sales and make the coin. So that's what I decided to do.
I think that was a good choice.
I agree 110%.
I think that was a good choice. Sounds like it was. Yeah.
It was tempting to become a geologist, though, because, like the secret question, maybe I shouldn't say that out loud.
It's okay.
I should keep that under the rug.
A geologist is like what?
Study rocks.
Rock scientist.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rock scientist.
That's what's
yeah.
up. Yeah. I did not know that, so I definitely learned something today. Okay.
Yeah. Is that a foreshattadow? Are we going to get a tease for that later?
No, I was going to say that might be one of my secret answers on the secret questions.
Okay, gotcha.
That you're not supposed to tell anybody else in the world.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm going to get hacked.
I gotcha.
Oh, man. Jen, I was asking Korbin before you came on the show, is there a difference between a mortgage banker, a mortgage broker, a loan officer, a mortgage officer? What is there a difference between all of those titles and roles?
I would say the role is pretty much the same.
Okay.
The big difference is between a mortgage broker and a loan officer or a mortgage banker. So a mortgage broker actually has to get a broker's license. It's quite a process, a lot of vetting, a lot of insurance, a lot of bonding, a lot of applications. Because what a broker does is they actually have access to several different wholesale lenders, right? So the wholesale lines, and then they can shop different lenders.
Right.
On the other side, you have just like a single wholesale lender mortgage company,
Right.
Where they have their own warehouse line of money. They fund their own closings. They don't have to go to a third party for any of that. And then the brick and mortar banks line up more with the mortgage wholesale banker.
Right. So unless you're a broker, you're under kind of one entity, but as a broker, you're kind of shopping around to different lenders in some sense, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's from your perspective, like what's pros and cons to one or the other? Like what's is there? I feel like sometimes the two compete with each other, like brokers and loan officers. Like they just have different things to say about each other. Like, is there good and bad about as a consumer, let's say, going to a broker versus someone like you that is just at the bank that you're at, so to speak? Does that make sense?
From a consumer point, no.
Yeah.
I think that there's a pretty equal level of service and turn times.
Sure.
Whether you're a broker or a bank.
Okay.
Yep. So from a consumer point, I always recommend people get at least 2 mortgage quotes.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you really want to have fun, get one from a broker.
Yeah. Sure. Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. So. Okay. I guess we were. That's what we were kind of talking about before the show. We were pretty right about that. I guess that's good. I feel like some people just use the terms interchangeably, but they're not exactly. Good to know.
I think it's a lot of things. It's not in real estate to where they try to make it more difficult than it probably should be or anything like that. You know, you'll have 2 people kind of similar roles, but like I said, something is a little bit different, and you got 2 different terms and stuff like that. But
have you ever thought about doing the broker thing or trying that out?
I've worked for a broker for a good part of my processing career. So when I was a processor, on the back end, it's not as fun.
Okay.
Because you have different shops, and the brokerages used to be a lot more popular, probably in the early 2000s.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
And maybe processes have streamlined since then, but
sure.
Again,
probably not.
It's all relative.
Yeah, probably
you
not.
You could still buy a house in 30 days if you go with a broker versus a bank.
Sure.
No problem.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense. I think my grandparents were brokers.
Really?
Yeah, they were. I think they were kind of done, not too far after 2008. I think they had done that for quite some time, and then that was kind of like a lot of people was like, all right, I think we've done enough. This is not the same business necessarily anymore as it was, and so they kind of got out of it. But they were Summit Mortgage. They were with Summit, and I think they were brokers. I was young and I didn't really pay too much attention to it, but probably should have.
Nah. There's much more fun things to think about.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. It wasn't my cup of tea. I'm a tech guy. Yeah.
That's what we said when we first met each other.
Yeah.
He just had got his realtor license. I was just getting the home inspections, but he told me that his true passion was more so media and technology and everything like that. So
yeah. I can tell too.
Yeah.
That you really enjoy tech.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Ms. Jen, if you also don't mind sharing with the people, you actually have your own podcast, correct?
I do.
So do you mind, the name of it, the purpose, or like your overall mission of why you kind of started your own podcast as well?
For sure. So it's called the Mortgage Mom Connection. It encompasses the 3 main parts of me. Like I said, right? Main Street mom turned mortgage banker.
Yeah.
But one of my other passions in life is matchmaking. So like in my early 20s, I wanted to start my own dating service. But I mean, I've been a little beat out now with all the apps and everything. I had an envelope system planned.
No way.
And, it was crazy. But anyway, I like to match people up. So in the business realm, when I'm networking, if I'm meeting with somebody that I genuinely know will benefit from meeting somebody else, I make that connection for them. And so my podcast, my guests are always business networking connections. And I'm hoping that people in West Michigan will get connected and hear about other businesses.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Wow.
Business dating
I never knew that.
Right.
I never knew
that.
that.
Yeah. I like that.
Matchmaking.
So I have to have you guys on mine next.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
So that's probably why you're so good at what you do, because you use that same format, just kind of in a mortgage standpoint.
Yeah.
So wow, I never knew that. Okay, so that's 2 things I learned today. Okay.
That's cool. Yeah.
Now you just gotta learn one more.
Yes, third time is the charm. Going more into the show. I know last episode we pretty much wrapped up with our own goals and different things like that. So at the end of each show, Miss Jen, we basically try to set a goal, follow up with that each month as we go back to the podcast and the show and everything like that. I know one of my main goals last year, well, I said last year, this past month, was fulfilling my full potential through that spring GR 250 project. I know I had mentioned it a little bit in night leagues and kind of been sharing my feedback with you. It's been good so far. I'm not looking forward to like the outer class work with, I won't really call it homework, but to a certain point it is.
It's homework.
But I like the fact that I get to meet new people every other Thursday, that I get to interact with like-minded businesses and people who are at that self-sufficient stage but want to continue to grow their businesses out. Working, the two instructors over the class, Ty and Miss Zena, has been great so far, learning new things. But that homework piece, I really, really struggle with. That's the reason I didn't go back to get my master's. I'm like, I don't feel like doing any more homework. But the engagement, interactive piece, even meeting with my small group every other Monday has been very helpful. But it's just that outsource piece. But going well so far. Korbin, you mind following up with something
funny? Actually, just today I saw somebody. It was like one of our local news stations posted about the 250 project thing, and they were just talking about what it was. And there's the top comment on there, some guy that says he's just griping something about. Basically, he said, "Oh, this is only helping middle class people." He said you got to make $100,000 to get in. If I made $100,000 a year, I wouldn't need anybody's help. that was the top comment on there, and I thought, and I actually said something to him. I said, buddy, just so you know, that there's a program for that too. It's a Spring GR is actually their other program, and if you just start out in business, you can go on the Spring GR program. Nobody's excluding you. This isn't a program for once. It's like get your first 100 first, and then you go into this program. So they're not the same. That 100 to 250 is very different than 0 to 100. So there's different programs for that, man. Like just pump the brakes.
And it is crazy because also if you would have did more research, you would have known that they had to honestly lower the standard to 100 because there weren't enough businesses that qualified to be at that 250 mark that wanted to be in the program. So technically, they had to kink a few things around, but you can definitely join Spring GR. That's why I made the 250 program, because you start off at this point, you prove yourself, and then you move to the next. So that's crazy, man. But
he's like, I run my own business. I make $40,000. I said, well, then get into Spring GR. You make your first 100, then you get into the 250. He was so mad about it, Like, there's nothing to be mad about. It's just not going to be the same program. 0 to 250, that's a tougher program.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm with him. I don't think anybody should be excluded from anything.
Right. There's reasons.
Equal. However, in business, there's a difference between making 100 to to 40 grand. And the people that was at 40 grand had worked to get to that 100 mark. Yeah. And I believe you can do the same, but you gotta go through the process.
Yeah, and then kind of once you get there, you gotta refine things to really push it. And I just thought it was funny. He said, if I made 100,000, I wouldn't need anyone's help. I'm like, all right, let us know when you get there.
That's not true. Yeah. Because there's millionaires that need help. So hey, I guess it all depends how far you want to go.
For sure.
And if he makes 100 grand and don't want to get any further, he probably wouldn't even join the 250 program, because we joined it to get to the 250 mark.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work. So I just thought that was funny. But on a related note, last month my goals, I told you to slap me around if I didn't make some progress on the cleaning company. So I did make some progress on.
We talked about that yesterday a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, so I'm kind of kickstarting a little cleaning company. My goal is to target. It's kind of more maybe to be a service for realtors. I guess I'm kind of looking at it that way.
For sure.
For like. Mostly probably vacant houses, or maybe I'm thinking like pre-showings sort of thing. I don't know that that's going to be very popular.
What about corners?
I'm not sure yet. I expect that I'm going to get those calls, and I think I'm going to take them as they come. Because I think there's probably not a ton of people to do that, so I'll kind of reserve my judgment for if someone needs that kind of help.
Sure.
And it'd have to be probably kind of expensive. So I haven't, I probably won't solicit that, but I fully expect to get those kind of calls once people hear there's like hands-free, that sort of thing. But I'm mostly thinking like I noticed actually just kind of going around with him, doing inspections and stuff, following him around, doing cameras and stuff. I think one result, like the market being the way that it is people are just buying houses no matter what. I mean, $50,000-$60,000 over it. Nobody really cares about almost anything, it seems like sometimes.
Yeah.
So one of those things is really cleaning. Like we go through houses that are just kind of dirty, one way or another. And that doesn't really matter. They're going to sell the house that way. They don't need to clean it up beforehand. So, but as a buyer, I can't imagine that's a really great situation, So I'm kind of thinking that maybe we already did a little bit of research and asked a few realtors, like, hey, would you do this for your clients? If they're moving into a house, doesn't look too good. Before they move in, we come in and do a real good deep clean sort of thing, light clean, deep clean, something like that. So that's kind of the goal. So last month I didn't have a name, just a vision. So Paragon is kind of the name that I came up with. Paragon is kind of like the exemplar, right? The paragon of that sort of thing. So Paragon, that. I don't. I'm paying this week to have all the registration and stuff done to make sure that I don't know if I'll have to add something. I'm assuming that Paragon is probably taken. So Paragon Cleaning Services, something. We'll figure. I'll pay to figure that out. But that's the name. Got a website up and ready. Have a real easy process. I'm just gonna probably take everything by estimate to start. With my own kind of pricing model and just kind of see what happens. I kind of have an idea in mind, but we all know that you got to be flexible on that sort of thing. We'll just kind of see how it goes. So I did make some progress on that. I'm getting that registered this week. I'm going to go ahead and just get some business insurance because it's really not very expensive. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that in, and then I'll really kind of push a little bit more. So by next month, hopefully, we'll get to that at the end, but it'll probably tie into my goals for the next month too. But I'm pretty happy with the progress I made on it this last month since we talked. So it's good.
Well, that's great progress, bro. And I'm looking forward, like I said, you helping me with my business. I'm looking forward to doing the same for you and seeing you grow over the years with that, bro. So that sounds like hell of a good progress to me.
Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be something that'll be a little I don't know. I hope to be able to give some people opportunities to have some solid work. I don't mind cleaning. It's not something I want to personally do a lot of, especially for the rest of my life or anything. But I think it's maybe easy is not the word, but it's work that's clear. It's clear direction in cleaning. It's easy to know when it's clean and when it's not clean. So, and I plan to charge enough to hopefully pay people well and hope that they'll stick with me and. Kind of hope to grow it into something and just see what happens. So, yeah.
Cool. I'll keep my ears open for crew members.
I'll send you some stuff too if you got clients might be interested. I think I'll definitely reach out to mostly realtors and things like that. Anyone that's connected with home buyers.
For sure.
Might be something they'd want to pitch into, or honestly, as a home buyer, I can certainly imagine looking at the task of having to do that before, like, who wants to move into a dirty house? It's an awful.
I would love to give that as a closing gift.
Yeah.
Right, that's kind of what I was thinking. Even if a realtor and someone like yourself want to pitch in for the client or something, like, and there's going to be some of those houses that's just like it's an obvious like a win, for everyone. We see them. We see a lot of them. So I think it's looking around, I don't really see anybody in the area. There's a lot of cleaning companies around, but I don't really see anyone with that specific target. Maybe one company. And they were looking a little older. So I think those two systems are very, very different. The kind of routine every week or 2 week cleaning company is very different from this one. Okay. Maybe I'll change my mind on that. Maybe that'll be one of those things. But I think to kind of do one or the other is probably the best. My mom's done like residential and commercial cleaning since the day I was born. So if I need any referral, for that, I can just pass that to her, and she'll be an asset for me on this too. So yeah, looking forward to it.
That's what's up right there, man. to have your mom been doing it, it's just kind of built within your roots, and it's like if you can take it to that next level,
takes a lot of anxiety off me too. For some, I know there's gonna be a lot of unknowns, but like I know that if I run into something, a carpet stain or something that I don't know what to do about, I know for a fact that she's already done it. Yeah, she's already done it. So that takes a lot of pressure off of me just to have that, to know I have that knowledge base.
Agreed.
Probably like you're kind of like having Sean. You can kind of call Sean.
Yes.
It's like, man, I've never run into this. What do you think?
I've done that with Sean a few times, especially being more so out in like rural areas. I'll see something, I'm like, I don't see this in every city, so I didn't know what's going on. And there's been times Sean always comes through with those type of things. So no ifs and buts about it. Like I said, huge shout out to Sean. With Hemlock Home Inspections in Manistee. We was blessed to have him on a show 2 episodes ago and everything like that. So, Ms. Jen, do you have any specific goals that you've been working on, and something that maybe you feel like you have been fulfilling that goal, or kind of been slacking on a little bit as today's topic, or?
Yeah, so in this market, we do a lot of work up front. We pre-approve people.
Yes, ma'am.
We get them all ready, and then we send them out, and then they come back, most of the time with their tail between their legs. Just it's not their fault, but it's the market. So I really need to work on staying in touch with them and encouraging them. A couple weeks ago, I was prompted in my own heart to do that with somebody, and sure enough, I called them, I encouraged them, I gave them a tip, and then they bought a house. I don't think I was responsible for that, but I think I just maybe gave them that spark.
Confidence.
Maybe a little more clarity, or how can we rethink this, or I don't know. I don't know. So I do want to make sure that I am calling my pre-approval pipeline on a more regular basis. Because that was a little random.
That's good.
That has something to do kind of with the overall topic. I think, with our referral-based businesses, we have to talk about and follow, and that important piece of follow-up, right? I think that's a lot of things we've been working on as Chandler Inspections. How can we follow up with our clients after the inspection and different things like that? Who somewhat really pushed the refer on me was Miss Patty. So I think she's like I don't know if she's the coordinator. She does something for Keller Williams Real Estate, Rivertown.
Yep, gotcha. Yep.
So shout out to Patty and saying that she gave me a book, and it touched based upon referrals, and it kept going into my mind. I'm like, we gotta stay in contact with our clients from a maintenance standpoint, not to overwhelm them, but to remind them about those small things. Just because as an inspector, 70% of the things that we find could have simply been prevented if they would have got a small hint or reminder. Be sure to check out for this during this time of the year and different things like that. Ms. Jen, talking more so about you and exactly what you do, what do you think is your overall why of what you do and how you do it, more so said?
Yeah, so I think I touched on it naturally earlier in the conversation, but it really has to do with the length of time I've been in this business.
Yes, ma'am.
Just the logical reasons for me to stay. But then my heart for people, my sense of empathy, and then one of my sons told me that I'd make a great teacher. So I think especially with first-time home buyers, they need a personality like mine who can repeat the steps a few times.
Yes.
Have patience.
Yes.
Be encouraging, things like that.
Engaging.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good teacher to me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I don't know if they get paid as well, but yeah.
And Miss Jen, we actually collabed on an event last year. Was it the American flags?
We did Flag Day.
Freedom flags.
Freedom, flags, and fun.
Yes, day. It was out there. Gun range. What's the name of it?
Center
Shot Gun Range. It was really dope because they even, towards the end of the event, kids, I would believe it was like from 5 to even 13-year-olds were actually able to go out there and learn about gun safety. And that was something I feel like is not talked about a lot, Because some people feel like you should keep that stuff away from kids, but it's like if that stuff is in the house, they probably should be educated on it. So forbid that they see it, they know what and what not to do. So when they came from that aspect, that center shotgun range, I was just kind of really amazed of the learning opportunities they gave for the kids. I'm like, I've never seen this before. So that was a really good thing. I know the turnout wasn't what we kind of expected, but
I bought a lot of chicken wings.
Yes,
a
lot of chicken wings, and that food truck was fire. That mac and cheese, that pulled pork was excellent.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. Was there a lot of leftover?
There was a lot of leftovers. It was a long, warm day. Like I said, I believe that was in.
It was in May, I think.
May?
Flag Day.
Okay.
Flag Day was in May.
Sounds about right. It was warm.
Huh?
Yeah.
It was warm by then.
So yeah, it was a good event, and like I said, besides the turnout, it was a pleasure connecting with you, Miss Rebecca, and just Gunshot in general. And then you were actually the guy that put together the flyer and everything for us. So we appreciate you on that, bro.
They don't always win. That's odd that the turnout wasn't quite what you expected, but yeah, it happens.
I'll tell you, Porter's Smokehouse loves me though. Every time I go through their drive-thru, hi Jen, hi Jen.
Yeah. Hey.
So it's all good.
Yeah.
No, it was.
You got to try
fire.
stuff though. So
For
that
sure.
was some of the feedback I got on that event was, oh Jen, I thought that was your 4th of July stuff. And I'm like, oh.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay,
Because of
yeah.
the flag. Okay.
Yeah. I guess I can kind of see that.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some, but you learn every time.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah,
Agreed.
that's for sure.
It was that what was that event that we did in 2019? The All About You Give Back. We had that at the
That was a great turnout.
NAACP
Community
building
center,
right there on Madison. It was a decent. I think it was a good turnout.
Mm-hmm.
I always have high expectations, more, and I'm like, I wish more people showed up. But I think that was actually a pretty nice, solid event.
Pretty successful. Yeah, definitely. It was pretty busy.
I had an old friend. I had to stop by an old co-worker and an old friend. We was watching the game. Shout out to Terry Rucker. We were watching the game on Sunday. He mentioned that to me. I'm like, man, I forgot all about that. I'm like, we have to do something like that again. Maybe like a night leaves or something like that. We can kind of come up with our own event, have all of our vendors there, and do something like that for the community. I think because we had ordered a food truck and gave away groceries and stuff.
Giving away haircuts and stuff.
Yeah, we had the haircuts. I remember that.
You couldn't go wrong. I felt like at that one. There was
free pizza and everything. It was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, the police there. I like that. Like just as a just to engage with people and stuff like that. Build community. I thought that was cool. Why not?
Yeah,
that's
excellent.
stuff. Yeah, that's good stuff.
How important do you guys think community is within our business? Like I said, I think all of this stuff ties into that networking and referral based piece, and I think community plays a huge part in that. Mm-hmm. And when we say community, is that just where we from, where our business is located, or do you guys think that's just like a general Grand Rapids, a Door thing, a West Michigan thing, or I just kind of want to hear you guys' perspective on the importance of community and exactly define what community is.
I think it's changed a bit. The landscape of community has changed because of the internet, I would say, to some degree. Like, I think it used to be, I would say, probably one of the most important things in stuff like real estate. I mean, and you still have a lot of realtors that are really connected with their communities and things like that. And some of it kind of depends on the community, whether it's more rural or in the city. I think there's a lot more competition in the city and things like that. So if you're kind of on the outskirts, you might have less competition. You can really kind of take advantage of that community. Because that power, I think, of like word of mouth in the community still exists big time. If you you got to put in the work for sure, and be in front of people, I think, to do that. But I also think at the same time, just the kind of landscape of the internet has really changed that, because people just look stuff up on the internet a lot of times, so they don't necessarily, and you used to, even on the internet, you used to be able to kind of capitalize on community, right? A realtor or a loan officer or an inspector or something. We still kind of have a little with the inspection, we're working on that right now. We still have some room with the internet, but like in real estate, it's been bought and paid for by Zillow and Realtor.com and True, whatever. They've all basically paid for those positions where you can try to search home, realtor in Big Rapids or something. You're gonna get Zillow. It's just, you're gonna get whatever they provide you, whatever the ads and whatever that is. It's highly unlikely you're gonna get a person who is ranking in that area or something like that. So I think the internet's changed it a little bit, but I think it's still pretty vital. I think if you can take advantage of your community, that's probably not the right word, take advantage, but be involved.
From a good aspect.
Be involved in your community, then I think then that's definitely good, because word of mouth, I would say, is still probably can be the most powerful referral, I think, in some sense, right?
Yeah, I believe community is a mindset.
Yeah, I like that.
It could be like the year 2100, and people are gonna find their pods and their people. Because if you look at like Facebook, what do we see? Informed groups. Yep. Rockford, Caledonia, Middleville. People crave community. Mm-hmm. So I believe it will always exist.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that.
That's a good point. Yeah. The Facebook groups are a huge one. I'm amazed by Facebook groups. Like they're. I wish I could just study them. They're so interesting.
They are. I love it. Every informed group has their own personality.
They totally do.
And you don't really necessarily mesh with all of them because that's humans,
right?
It
almost is like walking into different communities. If you went to different cities or different little towns, there's a different vibe.
There's a different vibe in every town.
They might have some similarities, through those, but there's definitely a different vibe. And so, sometimes it's like, I gotta get the hell out of this group. Like, this is not the vibe. And sometimes they offer a lot of value. It is really interesting. People assume roles within those little groups and things like that. It is very interesting. They provide some value, that's for sure. But that's one way too, I think, for people to be now oddly involved in their communities, to be a part of those, be on the top of those groups and things like that. They can really offer you some business and referrals and things like that. That one in Rockford here is just crazy. It is something else. I feel like the more people. I don't know where the number is, but it's somewhere between 5 and 10,000. The group's out of control. It just gets out of control. It might be too big, it's just too much. But there's an interesting kind of under that 5,000 mark where there really is, everyone kind of has a chance to talk. Everyone sees what everyone's saying, and then past that, it's just it just gets crazy.
Yeah, check out the Caledonia Babble. It's different. It is different. I just started.
That's funny.
And just check it out.
What area are you in? Are you in?
I'm in the Door area.
Okay.
So I'm we have Door, Moline, and Burnups.
Okay.
Is all one informed group.
Sure. Yep. That makes sense. I think there's a few here that are Rockford, Cedar Springs, that sort of thing. Combined groups. Yeah. Makes sense.
I like what you said, Jen, about how community is a mindset. Mm-hmm. You don't hear that often. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we don't hear that often because that provides people an excuse not to be community oriented. So I really like how you said it, because if it's an overall mindset, it doesn't matter where you at or who you are. You still have your average person has a group of people that supports them, that loves them. Whether if it's 10 people or if it's 1,000 people in the area. So I definitely agree with that 110% to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah,
with the
mindset. That's a good one.
I think it's a need, a basic human need that we all.
I agree with that. Yeah. People who fight that seem to do worse than those who don't. That's for sure. Yeah.
And talking about personal needs, I remember, just like I said, we're both part of Ignite Leads, which is an overall business referral program. So shout out to Ignite Leads. That's how me and Jen originally got connected and everything like that. The program this far has been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, connecting me with great people like Jen. Saying that, I remember this past week, I think it was Christy and Kaylee who talked about how people didn't really see value in things that they didn't basically wear. Like they was talking about health, working out, exercising, a structure, how a person could feel pain for so long and not say, I can't afford that, but then you'll go to the club and have a drink, but then you can say you can afford that. I think they had talked about having a stock, you spend a 20-day at Starbucks, but then you're not going to spend $15 or $20 on a workout session. You're saying it's too expensive. So I think community may be somewhat of that same aspect. Like I said, that kind of going back to give room to make excuses on certain things. It's like, if you don't really see the value in community, it's never going to sink in that community is truly important. If you, and I guess that's kind of the same mindset with health and everything. Yeah. So you saying that just kind of brought a quick flashback in regards to that. So yeah, that was super dope that you mentioned that. I know in all of our fields, obviously we have a huge group of competitors and different things like that. And even though at this table we are genuine people and we want to see everybody win, however, if we can come out on top, that's always, always kind of the Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality. And saying that, what do you guys feel in you guys' industry that you bring specifically to the table, maybe than your average competitor may bring? Like, what do you guys think make you different in you guys' industries?
Good question.
My number one comment on all of my 5-star reviews is excellent communication.
Ooh, I like that, and I can see that.
I get in front of it. Both agents get weekly updates from me. Nobody calls Jen wondering what's going on. So that's how good. I feel that I rise above. I win listing agents' business because they felt serviced and informed during the transaction, and they're like, well, hey.
And you probably take some pressure off of them by communicating and going, where they don't have to
Right.
That's a big help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think enough people of your competitors kind of lack in that? I think that's somewhat of I won't say a common thing, but unfortunately I hear that more than I should in real estate. And like I said, obviously I know home inspection is different than mortgages, but do you think that's something that also lacks among your competitors as well?
I think it has the potential. It's one of our biggest crutches because everybody's so busy and pulled in so many directions. So you have to create a communication system, and it's like building a habit. So I decided to do all of my updates on Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. I told myself Friday at 3, I'm going to go through my pipeline and I'm going to tell everybody where we're at, and then I'm done.
Nice.
But it took me probably a good month to get into the practice of that. Well, now if I don't do it, I'm like getting shaky and weird and like, hey, what did I do today? Oh man, my Friday updates, because I built a habit. Yeah. So it just takes extra work, and I think a lot of us do a good job at it, but it's something that you can definitely fine tune and shine.
Definitely.
Are consistent.
I think habits are important, so I like that you use that term as well. Korbin, you mind elaborating on?
For me, I would say, I was just talking to Chris earlier. He gave me he said that he gave someone my number and about something about working on a website or something. I just asked Chris what the gentleman did. He said that he kind of started as an IT consultant and then moved into more of a business consultant, which is something we've been talking about because I was like, wait a second, are you explaining me or this guy? Because I feel like, I'm seeing some parallels here. But he said that was, just long story short, that was kind of like, I'm really hoping he does call me because I would love to pick his brain. I'd love to help him, but I'd really love to pick his brain on this other bit because I feel like that is something, I guess that's probably what I offer as an overhead view. A lot of people that do websites or do technology or do a specific thing really just do that specific thing pretty well. Maybe that could be a weakness for me in some regards, in some places too, where I, jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing. But from a standpoint of being able to communicate with people, kind of having people on both sides of those people who are really techie and don't necessarily speak plain English very well, and those people who are not on the techie side and need to understand more from these people. I think I sit right in the middle of that, and that's usually where people like to have me, is kind of translating those sorts of things and finding weak points and processes and things like that, and getting rid of redundancies and things like that. So I would say organization, in some sense, would be maybe my strong suit, doing things the right way, where some people like to kind of just, we've talked about that before. You have somebody do something very specific, and maybe they know that there's all these other things around it that, I can do this for you, but all these other things are going to kind of bottleneck that, or they're just not, it's not going to allow it to be everything that it could. So, but they don't really bring those things up. They kind of sweep them under the rug, so to speak, and just, all right, you're paying me to do this, so I'm going to do this, where I'll probably be the first person to say, I'll do that for you, but I want you to know there's things on the outside that you really should address first, and I can help you with those, or maybe you need someone else to do it, but you really, I can do this all you want, but if we don't get you organized on the outside first, then you're kind of wasting money, even though it might benefit me. I would rather not, because I think that's beneficial though, because a lot of times when people just continue to do that, nobody really addresses what's on the outside. It all comes back eventually. It just comes crumbling in eventually, and they go, "How could this have happened?" It's because just nobody ever told you. Nobody ever took the time to explain what's going on here. So you don't know what you don't know, and business owners typically like to pay people to take care of their problems. So that's what they think they're doing. So, but sometimes you gotta let them know, like, some people aren't taking care of your boss. It just is what it is. So I'd say that's probably it for me. I'm still working on a way to assert myself more into that role. I usually fall into that role, but I don't necessarily always start into that role. So I think that maybe I need to find a way to kind of put myself in that position. And some of that's like, maybe that self-doubt sometimes, where I think, well, who the hell am I? I don't have a $250,000 business or $500,000 business. I don't have necessarily a certificate to show, but but I do it. So there's value in it, and I guess there's the proof is in the pudding, they say, right? So
absolutely.
So
you're the techie translator.
Yeah, pretty much. And sometimes I do stuff.
Korbin, me sitting here hearing you, bro, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit.
I appreciate that.
The reason I say that, bro, me and Korbin, like I said, we first connected, and I won't say like we lost communication or anything like that, but me, like I said, me being brand new as an entrepreneur, I was kind of trying different things out, and that's when I brought Korbin together with another friend with some media stuff, and Korbin put me to the side. He's like, man, I hear you, I see your vision, I think this will help. And he explained it to me. I said, you know what, Korbin, what the hell are you saying? Is what my mind is telling me. And he was saying things that I thought without even telling him. So I'm like, you know what? We got to put 100% into what you're saying and what your method. And saying that, he prevented me continue being a chicken running around with his head cut off.
Right.
Because I did have all of these ideas. I did have all of these things, but I didn't have a person to help me put that into a structured method and make it so easy and convenient as we done now. And that's the reason we were able to go up on prices and different things, because we add simple values that a normal home inspection company don't do. Saying that, I think what makes it different is kind of that follow-up piece, what you were saying, kind of more so with that communication piece, sending those reminder emails. This is what time you're supposed to arrive to your appointment, sending that confirmation so we're not rescheduling, it's not going to cancel, this is what it is. And I feel like that's a challenge in my industry, because even though I'm a licensed home inspector, people look at me sometimes, will view me as a contractor. And we all know contractor has this perception, they may or may not show up and finish the job, whether or not if they're paid. I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm obviously, you may put me in that contractor lane, but I'm not here to do that, right? I'm here to, like I said, you're buying a house, I'm here to provide a unique service for you. And then saying that with the follow-up piece stuff, being able to send them preventative and maintenance text tips just on the strength of, I don't want you to have this issue. And like I said, us going deeper and eventually creating home maintenance programs to where people and homeowners in general can just have an overall general subscription. And with the subscription, it's going to tell you everything you need to do to prevent having major issues, to even when you start selling your house. I think it'd be like an overall easier process to get that information to a mortgage broker like yourself, or the realtor, and different things like that, so everybody can be on one piece of how this house was actually treated and valued for the time of stay of the owner and different things like that.
Yeah, to document it. So a couple things. number one thing I do when I recommend you to realtors is talk about your tech. I'm like, you will never wonder what's going on with Chandler Inspections. So
that's true.
Kudos.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That's the number one thing that I noticed.
We communicate too. You know, we do as the company. I mean, the calendar invites, emails. There's no questions on what's going on.
And I love my text reminders. That I get. You know, it's fine. It's home maintenance tips. It's completely approachable and wonderful.
We actually have a really good retention rate on that too. Like I guess we're doing a pretty good job of not really being annoying.
No, you're not annoying.
I
think it's like maybe once a month or something.
Usually we do about once a month, once a quarter for some things too, and we'll probably do a little bit more, mostly on the client side, I think, this year. But it's meant to be helpful and hopefully evolves into something too, I think, where it'll be useful to, I think we'll have more of this year, like blog posts and things like that, where it should be helpful for people like you and realtors and things to have as resources too, you know, like to give to clients and things like that. Like that's all helping everybody, you know. So we try to really do more than the other inspection companies. I think it starts right from the beginning too, because communication, calendar invites, you know, everything's pretty clear cut and dry, you know. You'd have to just basically not read what we're sending you to have any confusion.
Unfortunately, we all get those clients. We say we can send you everything, but it's up to them to read it. And I mean, sometimes we come in far at that.
Scroll.
Yeah. As long as they just sign, I suppose. That's all right. That's on them, you know. We all do that with those end user agreements, iTunes.
Oh gosh.
I'm not reading that. Fair enough.
Us being in the home inspection, real estate, mortgage industry, I think we can all agree and say this is pretty much of a male-dominated industry to a certain extent. And Jen, like I said, when I met you, I was really fascinated just about how you handle yourself, how you conduct yourself in a business standing. And saying that, how do you think you were able to overcome the aspect of, I'm in a male-dominated industry, but I can do the job just as good, if not better, than just your standard male mortgage officer or anything like that. So what do you think and I guess this may go back to what makes you different, but what do you think some different strategies was to make sure that you stayed on top of your game, and what made you different than your normal male industry mortgage officer?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because I spent many years in the back office telling myself, Jen, you could have done that better. And so finally one day I just convinced myself I can do this better. The first person I had to actually get past though was myself, because I started comparing. In our industry, we're rated by our volume of loans that we sell, right? So seeing those numbers on paper and then just seeing like maybe Facebook ads or just comparing myself to everybody else. I was actually fired from my very first sales job because I didn't sell enough. Okay? So what I did that day when I got fired, and it was in a male-dominated office, is I called every single realtor that I had built a relationship with that year. And I said, okay, I just got let go because I didn't sell enough loans, but I'm telling you, I'll be back in 30 days. So just hang on. And I did. Then I got a different job, and then so on and so forth. So the first person you have to get past, whether you're a male or a female, is yourself. And stop comparing yourself to other people, because you are truly on your own journey. My first year in sales, I made single digits. My second year in sales, I made double digits. My third year in sales, I made double digits. My fourth year in sales, I made triple digits.
Hey.
So it's just a progression.
Like loans? Is it number of loans? Is that
income.
Income.
My income.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my income was single digits my first year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine was as well. That's part of the game, that's for sure. Jenny, hear you say that. Remember, I think we had talked about this yesterday, about how a majority of people in this world categorize themselves, and they put themselves in this box and limited themselves, whether if it's by gender, race, class, or anything, right? So for you to say that it was beyond your gender, and you had to get past yourself. I want our viewers to really feel that and understand the importance of that, because 9 times out of 10, the battle you are facing is yourself, and you have to get past that from a mental, physical, emotional standpoint. So if you don't mind, kind of elaborate on that. What may have been 1 or 2 main things that you felt that you had to get over the hump within yourself?
Sure. So a common practice that people in my industry have is cold calling.
Okay.
Okay. I hate it. I hate it. I don't have the tenacity to sit there. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually worked for a telemarketing company in my 20s and like did surveys, and I mean, I called people, right? But what I observed from other people in my industry, and mostly male, like they have more energy to like just get on that phone, and if they get hung up on 50 times, they don't care because they're not as emotionally attached. Like I'm a female, like I'm emotional about this, you know? So I learned that as a female in sales, I do much better creating events. I do much better coming alongside somebody else, like a referral partner, and supporting them in an event they would like to do. So event marketing and networking groups have been my mainstay. I do not cold call anybody.
No. Building real relationships. I don't either. I would just, whatever I was doing, if it called for that, I just wouldn't do it. You know, it's just not, I don't find that. I can't. I think about what it feels like to me. Like, I just don't like getting those calls personally, so I don't want to be the guy giving those calls. I got no ill will for somebody who does it necessarily, but I just don't want to be the guy interrupting somebody's dinner. You know what I mean? I don't make connections that way. I don't like that either. That is like my worst nightmare. Cold calling. You're right though. I know guys like that where it's just like, you feel emotion,
and
like
they can do it, and it works for them. That's fine. But I was just like,
just
okay, well, that doesn't work. So
yeah, maybe the world needs those people too, just as much. I got nothing against it, and you know, marketing a product is a very real thing. But oh my God, no, I'm with you on that one. Big time.
How do you think throughout the years, Ms. Jen, like we said at the beginning, you talked about, you know, kind of being a mother as well. And obviously that's a hat that you kind of never able to take off or anything. What do you think was the main key? And I think we all kind of struggle with this as entrepreneurs, is being able to balance your work with your home life, compared to when you work in a 9 to 5, it's like, okay, I know I'm here for 8 hours, I'm here for this amount of time, but kind of doing what we doing, we kind of all over the place. So how do you think you overall balance that?
So I'm actually working on that. That's my number 1 goal this year.
Good.
But I got into sales because of my family. I have 4 sons at home, and they're all school age. So I was missing baseball practice, working 9 to 5. I was missing PTA meetings, like I was missing. So I, number 1, got into sales to have a flexible schedule and have freedom. That's why an entrepreneur gets into business, is for freedom.
That's true.
I mean, the paycheck eventually helps, but freedom is
it was the freedom.
really hard to give up.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
As far as balance goes, I did take 2 steps this year, 2 small practical steps that have been very impactful. So I decided to take my lunch hour from 2 to 3 p.m. and pick up my elementary aged boys and bring them home, and then finish my workday at home. And then I came up with a little meal plan for the week that we all now have like expectations of what mom's gonna do, because last year I was working like 10 hours a day, sometimes 6-7 days a week, and they were eating a lot of cereal.
Oh no. Yeah.
So I had to regulate that a little bit, and you know, come down from the mountain and figure it out.
That's good. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work, but it is a good thing to do.
As boys, I'm pretty sure they love cereal. When I was a kid, to this day, I grabbed me a bowl of cereal.
Yeah. Structure is key. Because otherwise I'd be eating cereal all day too.
Korbin, did you see or feel any of that kind of when you were growing up? Like, I'm not, because like you said, your mother kind of going into the clinic business. And I'm pretty sure that's something she pretty much like ran herself. Did you feel or see any of that impact at all growing up? Or
my mom, she always kind of maintained a structure, but I never, my grandparents were mortgage brokers. They kind of kept to a 9 to 5, and they didn't really work outside of that. So I don't know if that was by design or if they, had to work to that. But they did always kind of just, they'd talk about it at the dinner table or something like that. But they didn't work after, once they got home, they didn't work anymore. So looking back, I kind of feel like they probably had to set some boundaries, because if you don't,
they probably had to work
that's key. I think is boundaries, setting boundaries with yourself and other people. But boundaries are weird in that they can be kind of illusory. Like, you have to create it yourself. You have to take it seriously, and if you don't take it seriously, then nobody's going to take it seriously. And so I think that they probably did. My mom was always kind of she kind of had to be flexible, because sometimes, like, commercial buildings and stuff, a lot of times they want you to clean that after everybody leaves or something. So she would work a lot of nights and stuff like that, but she always managed to have really pretty reasonable hours. So she wasn't ever, gone for long periods of time or anything like that. She did a good job taking care of me. And then her my stepdad at the time, her husband, did kind of a normal job as well. So I didn't have too much exposure to people who were necessarily workaholics. And it's weird, because I kind of had I had to learn to set some boundaries and things like that, because it's easy to kind of get addicted to working if you're somebody who doesn't mind working, I guess, or doesn't mind what you're doing. Like, time can fly, and then weeks can go by, months can go by, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, all these other things have kind of taken the back burner, and it's not immediately evident sometimes, but then all of a sudden you just kind of stop and say, why is this falling apart? Why is that falling apart? It's like, I haven't given it the time. I've been working so damn much, And it's easy to fall into that rut, so to speak, and you just have to do things like that, meal plan, and just turn your phone off at certain times. Or I started using my calendar like a year or two ago, like, religiously, like, to the point where I don't decide what I'm doing, like my calendar does. Like, I put it in the calendar, and even if that's just like me time, put it in the calendar, because then if somebody asks and I have that obligation, somebody asks, like, what are you doing at this time? Depending on what it is, I'll help somebody in need, but depending on the level of severity, if I look at my calendar and it's me time, I might just take me time. Like, I might just say, I'm busy, like, I'm busy for that 3 hours. I'm sorry, because for my own sanity, because if I don't, then who knows when it's going to come next. So to schedule that in, some people look at that and go, wow, you're rigid with your time. It really brings more freedom than it does, that it seems like it would take all that kind of order. It's relaxing once you really get into it, so.
I have a middle-aged epiphany to share with you, young men, okay? So, I was talking to a younger woman. She was stressing about her job, and I said, guess what? If you quit tomorrow, nobody's going to notice.
Yeah.
Maybe for a couple weeks, people will be like, oh, what happened to so-and-so?
Right.
And then it's over.
Life goes on.
So, if we step out of our industry, whether we believe it or not, there's somebody else going to step in.
It's very true.
All that to say, we do have to respect the personal part of our lives that we
100%.
have to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, that's the truth.
Well put. Yeah, well put. That's very true. Yeah. I kind of realized that about, I worked before I kind of got into doing my own thing, 2018 or something like that. I did mostly food and retail stuff for a long time, and it's pretty easy to kind of get absorbed into the cultures, or the just the even just the paycheck, just having that comfort of knowing that you're getting paid every couple weeks and things like that. And you see a lot of people kind of get stuck in that, and for some people maybe that's a better spot for them, or maybe they're even more comfortable there. But I had to kind of realize around the time that I took that leap that, like, I could, as long as I don't burn any bridges, like, there's no end to opportunities out there, despite what some people might think. Like, if you're somebody who's got 2 hands and 2 feet and a desire to work, there's jobs out there. So if you need to kind of stop and take that leap and do something for yourself, the world's not going to fall apart. Nobody's necessarily going to notice that you're not there. People might miss you, especially if you have work relationships, and there might be some sadness there. But you can probably come back in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years, and as long as you don't burn any bridges, you're a good employee. You want to do something else, you probably use them as a reference. Like, there's just no end to opportunity out there. So even though sometimes it seems like it's just going to be pure chaos to like treat yourself or take care of yourself, be fine. It's better to just take care of yourself and put that time into things that are going to be long-term, family, friends, relationships, things like that. Whatever you got to maintain, because that job's usually not going to take care of you any more than a paycheck. Past that, they're not going to be really looking out for you if shit hits the fan. So you got to take care of yourself, especially health. That was one thing I learned too. You got to take care of your health. If that falls by the wayside, doesn't matter what you do, you're just going to end up sick. We talked about that on the last one. That was his goal last time, was to start making sure he's taking care of personal health.
That's the Kaylee Transform Fitness.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to feel
you better than me. I have a gym in my basement, and I don't go there.
Oh no! Oh my goodness! If you were closer, I'd be accountability buddy with you. Use the gym, and that's too far out. I'm in Sparta. We're on opposite sides of the.
We're like an hour away.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, it's funny that you said that, Jen. I remember my cousin told me a while back he had a Planet Fitness. It paid was like $10 or $20 a month.
Tops,
and he was like, "Well, it runs off my card, but I never go." I'm like, "Why just don't you stop the subscription?" But hey, like I said, we are all, nobody's perfect,
right.
And we all have our challenges. So
I get it.
I was just telling Korbin this morning, I didn't have enough energy to get up, so I gotta go tomorrow. That'll complete my third day this week and everything like that. It's tough because I know for me, I have to get up and work out in the morning before my mind tells me, Brian, what the hell are you doing?
Right, get in your truck and do your job.
So I have to do it, and I feel like even after I leave or during the process, it's a natural body high.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like
clarity.
It's just lots. It lets off a lot of steam, because even when you're doing it, you're just truly able to focus on yourself. And I think I need that, kind of going back. I think a word that would kind of sum up to everything that we said was about that balance piece. So that's one thing I made promise to Katie. I said, well, last year I came for 90 days. I left. I lost balance. This year I want to stay balanced, so I know I can for sure commit to 3 days. Because if you don't have that balance long-term wise, you find yourself in predicaments you may regret. Like, man, I knew I should have been doing that, or I know I should have been doing this. And it shouldn't take a bad doctor visit to tell you, hey, look, you got to start doing this right. So, once again, nobody is perfect, but that's something that I want to continue doing, just because growing up, I had nobody in my family, unless we were playing, basketball or football or something. Nobody worked out on a regular basis. And I think that as human beings, that has to be taught as a normal expectation, such as brushing your teeth in the morning, right? You may not work out every day, but you need to stay active and different things like that.
You should have Kaylee on your show.
Yes. You know what? We should have Kaylee on the show. And then plus she's an entrepreneur. And like I said, she has came a long way from working at the YMCA now. Having her own workout studio and doing her thing. So, and I would love to hear a lot of her testimonials, just because a lot of women that are in her class always talk, this was hurting for this amount of time. I started working with Kaylee. I had those problems no more. And I kind of, like I said, that kind of touched base upon what people need to prioritize in health. Need to be one or two in your life, because without it, you ain't gonna really be doing too much.
You're not gonna be doing anything.
That's a tough one too, because some people really, like I guess I'm one of them. Genetically speaking, it does sometimes have to become a real problem before it's something where you realize it's a problem. Like I used to be 100 pounds heavier than I was, and the only reason I did anything about it,
I would never know.
And I can't even see myself that way anymore. It's so weird. But the only reason, for better or for worse, that I even did anything about it was because it started to ache, like my ankles and my knees started to hurt. I'm 5'10", so, getting close to 300 pounds, like I start feeling it in my back and everything. And that's like carrying, I heard somebody say, I don't remember who it was, said something about just imagine every, say you got 100 pounds Imagine that as like 6 bowling balls. You know, you're just carrying 6 bowling balls around. Imagine that. Like, good luck. You know,
that's a lot.
That's what my calves are gigantic because I just was always walking around with that extra weight. You know, it's like I never need a leg day anymore. So I just always got that. But yeah, but it took really having something to wear, and even then, you know, I could have just ignored it, but it took getting to that point of like, oh man, how old am I? 20, 21? Like, I'm just starting to ache. This is stuff I hear people talk about much older than myself. Something's not right, you know, and start to do something about it. And even still, you know, you see some people when they eat poorly or they take care of themselves, they sooner feel the ramifications of that. I don't. I can eat like a maniac and just be fine. I'm just totally fine. I can drink as much as I want, eat as much as I want, and just do it again the next day. And like, some people see that and go, man, you're lucky. No, I'm not. I almost wish it made me sick because I probably wouldn't do it as much, you know. And it's just not something you feel the effect of necessarily immediately like that, unless just genetically you're that way. But that's a tough one for people. It's really hard.
It is.
It's tough.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. It's hard. I want to know what it feels like to be the optimal me. You know, I still don't necessarily have that reference point. I definitely have that reference point of unoptimal me, and I've definitely come down. I've definitely come down from there. But I want to see what the other side of that bracket's like. You know, like see some of these people look like movie stars. You know, like I'd like to know what that feels like. Even if it takes a lot of work, too much to maintain. You know, maybe you decide, all right, this is too much. Maybe it's all right to be 10 pounds much. But I would like to get to that point. I made it to this side. I'd like to get to that side just so that I can know what it feels like. It'll be like 1-arm push-ups. You know? That'd be nice.
It's a lifestyle, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I only think of, basically Kaylee, she runs 3 or 4 group sessions a day, and that's not even based on her individual workouts.
Oh, then she goes and works out.
Wow. Yeah, then she works out, and then that's not even accounting for the gymnastics stuff that she does.
Holy moly!
So
she probably has to eat to that's like the opposite problem. She probably has to intake calories just
with
to
the
not
protein
be too
and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Imagine having that as a problem. I don't eat enough.
I'll never have that problem.
I wish. Yeah, maybe that's one way to do it. Is just to make your whole career about exercise.
Seriously, man, because if you try to control your diet, it is a 24-hour job. But I think a lot of it come back down to that planning piece. If you plan this day, it's hard for me to do that. Yeah. Because my taste buds can change. I'll wake up, I want this one day, next I'm like, I don't want that, you know?
I know.
Yeah, and it's a challenge for me.
I can go about 30 days and then, where's the Wendy's?
That's not bad though. 30 days is pretty solid. That's solid. If you could do that, 30 days Wendy's, 30 days Wendy's, 30 days, that'd be good.
Be good right there, dude.
That'd be good. I wish I had that kind of discipline. It's more like 10 days. 7.
Oh man, that is funny, guys. Jen, like I said, we connected, got introduced when Gary Davis had actually inspected his house going on almost 2 years ago, and now being a part of Night Leads for just over a year. Mm-hmm. You mind elaborating maybe how long you've been in the Night Leads, exactly what it is, and on like your new like you're like a VP, you're basically like the VP now, right? Mm-hmm. So kind of elaborating more so on your leadership role within the Night Leads.
Sure thing. So I've been in what you would call a hardcore leads group for about 4 years, and with Ignite for about 2.5 years. Hardcore leads groups, you meet weekly with a dedicated group of individuals in a closed category situation. So there's only one mortgage banker, one home inspector, one realtor, one insurance agent, one caterer, so on and so forth. I can't remember what book I read this from, but on average, each one of us knows at least 750 people, knows of. Not personal friends.
Sure.
I've been told that we all have like a personal wedding list of about 250. However, by association, we all know about 750. So if you have a group of 20 people you're meeting with every week, and we all know 750 people, do the math on the amount of exposure that your business gets on a weekly basis from people that you're actually earning trust with, getting to know, and getting to like, in most cases. And so I did the math on my closed business, and I get about 30% of my closed business from my dedicated leads group.
That's significant. Yeah.
That is amazing.
That is a lot. That is a lot.
Yep. And I think it's mostly because I'm proactive and I'm always wondering, how can I connect these people in this group with other people to generate business for everybody? It's kind of that generosity mentality where I'm not waiting in the wings for somebody to pay me back, because I feel like, I swear, every time you give out, it comes back.
Agreed.
Kind of like reciprocity. Yeah. Sometimes maybe people even feel obliged, you're giving them a couple leads or something. They're like, man, I really gotta get something for Jen. If she's giving me all this business,
it's
that's a good position.
It's that subtle notion of, she did something for me.
I'd rather be in that side of it than the side of, I gotta find some business or so and so. I'd rather be the one just kind of giving those out and then waiting for it to come back, for sure. That's a good way to go. Yeah.
So every year we change leadership. We had 2 great leaders they started the group almost 4 years ago. Will and Kathy. Yeah, and they decided it was time to switch up the leadership just to keep it fresh and keep things going on. So, Vice President, I watched the numbers of like referrals going in and out and how we meet with each other, and mostly for morale.
Sure.
Huge shout out to Chris Smith. Started, like I said, he's here with me and Korbin at the office, and then being of the night leads. Chris actually got introduced to me, who actually introduced the guy for me and Korbin on mutual friends and stuff like that. So when Chris came, he was like, hey, we know each other. And then, like I said, you're bald, I'm bald now. We both got beards, so we call each other twins and everything like that. So, but Chris is a funny guy. And like I said, even we talked about having him on the show possibly.
Definitely.
Sooner than later. So
he'd be a fun one.
He would.
Agreed. Looking forward to that. Something that we always do more towards the end of the show, Miss Jen, we have our under the rug moment. Whether if it's like an overall maintenance tip, a theme, something terrible that we pretty much saw throughout the past month full of inspections. And the main thing I want to talk about, because we just basically followed up with March and April basically being our roof month, just because all of the ice is leaving, all the snow is leaving. A lot of rain is taking place during those spring months, so all the things you necessarily need to do to prevent any major leakage, any major structural concerns from any previous water issues or anything like that taking place on your roof. So one thing I want to go into this month is kind of talking about attics, the importance of getting your attic inspected at least once a month. Whether if you're the man or the woman in the house, somebody has to go inside of that attic, and if not, somebody has to pay somebody to go inside of that attic. Majority of homeowners that I know never stepped foot inside that attic.
Not one time.
In the 250 project, it's like 15 or 16 individuals. I think maybe 3 people raised their hand out of 16.
Okay.
So maybe 3 out of 16 people check their attic. That's a very low amount. So the reason I mention those things, because due to potential leaks, you can have structural issues, whether if it's framework, roof sheeting, and then secondly, that moisture is going to lead to eventually mold or mildew if you don't have that leak. And then the summertime comes, and now you got ventilation and insulation concerns because you don't have enough balance of airflow with heat and cool air pressure as well, and everything like that. So like I said, those simple things can prevent any structural issues, any mold concerns, but it's also to know the importance of ventilation and insulation. I remember as a kid, you go in your grandparents' house, they'll cook something, or you go there Sunday, you come back Monday or Tuesday, you're like, man, this smells like the same thing that it smelled on Sunday, and you find out years later, my grandmother didn't have a chicken problem. She had a ventilation problem. That's why it smelled like that from on Sunday and different things like that. So just reminding of our viewers, just in case of those small tips of different things that you should know. Just because, Korbin knows he done ran into a few major mold problems with you. Even at one house, when Korbin had his realtor license, he had referred me to a client, and they end up having to get like $3,000 or $5,000 worth of mold mitigation.
Yeah, it was just covered in mold. And how often would you say you see them covered in mold? Like that was pretty bad.
That was pretty bad. I typically only see that maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 times. Typically, it's just minor, but
spots and stuff. Yeah. That one was definitely pretty bad. You kind of feel like you stick your head up there, you kind of wonder if you're already getting sick, you know? Like,
some case, almost in that case, and in a few more to where it's so bad, as an inspector, when you know what mold feels like and what it smells like, you can pretty much know it's there before you even lift up that attic access. You're like, I feel it in the air almost, you know?
Which is concerning.
Which is super concerning because to a certain extent you're living in that, you're breathing in that, and respiratory issues is more common than it's supposed to be, allergies and different things like that. Yeah. So all within your attic and roof plays a factor overall somewhere into what you're breathing in and out of that property.
I'm gonna have to make my husband check the roof tonight.
She's like,
when I cook a roast, I can smell it in my bedroom all the way, and my bedroom's at the other side of the house.
Yeah. Gotta get some ventilation.
Gotta get some ventilation in the attic, right? I have an attic fan.
That would help. If you have an attic fan, you should use that when you are cooking, because it'll suck everything up. And if you have I'm pretty sure you have some form of ventilation in your attic, whether if it's a roof ridge vent or a side ridge vent, that'll push everything outside of the house as well.
Do that. I've never done that before.
They're so nice in like the spring.
I mean, I use it in this. Yeah, I use it in the seasons
fresh
where we
air just coming in. Yeah, it's so nice.
The apartment I had in Big Rapids, when I went to Ferris, had one.
Really?
And every time you turn it on, you got to keep all the doors shut because if not, it'll jam every
It makes the doors slam.
So that is pretty funny right there. It was a duplex I did in Lansing about a month ago. About a month ago, and I knew that this place had mold. I already seen a little bit inside the basement. When I got to the attic, it was pretty much everywhere. Simply, the house had no ventilation, type of other than the soffits being ventilated, which is very limited. And then both of the bathroom exhaust fans was blowing directly into the attic, which a lot of people, if you hire a contractor, you expect for them to do the job right. Nobody's getting behind them, peeking their head inside the attic to make sure that exhaust is extended. If you don't do those small things or pay an inspector like myself to do those small things, you end up not paying somebody like myself $100 to $150. We're going to pay $1,500 to, like you said, possibly up to $5,000 for a fix that simply could have been prevented. Right. Do you have like I said, I know you obviously don't go on houses on a day-to-day basis, but do you have in your industry maybe under the rug moment, whether if it was, like I said, I don't want to throw too much assumptions out there, but whether it was like a bad deal or something just fell through or something that may have been swept under the rug in your industry this past month or just how long you've been in your industry?
Bad practice sort of thing, bad lending practice, maybe we could say. A lot of people talk about, so you went through the crash then in some form or another.
I worked in the mortgage business when all you needed was a pulse.
So all they were doing was, So
you
literally,
just needed a pulse, and then you sign, and then you get a mortgage. I worked in that.
Right. Yeah. So that was, some people, really the collapse was due to, in some sense, almost more things getting swept under the rug than not.
It was a credit crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is what we have now, what people are afraid of now and should not be afraid of, is we no longer have a credit crisis because after that, our industry standards changed greatly. So we all upped the game and that got taken care of.
Yeah.
As far as under the rug, I'm relating more to something people should do for themselves to look under their own rugs. And that is, I would advise once a year, check in with your mortgage banker and realtor, even if you don't plan on selling or refinancing, and just ask, like, hey, how much do you think my home is worth? Or, hey, what does my credit look like? If you don't want to do a hard pull on your credit, just get a credit app or order your free annual credit report. Like, I think that's kind of the under the rug thing in my industry is just keep an eye on yourself credit wise and equity wise. Because like right now, home equity levels are at an all-time high. If you need a new roof or you need to clean your attic and get a ventilation system, maybe you just need a home equity line of credit because your home is worth a lot more this year than it was last year.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's still any of that kind of practice going on that is questionable? Like I had my first, I think it was my first or second deal. You were on that one too. I remember my client at the time had a couple grand at most, and the house was, I think, 200 or so.
Pretty nice house, yeah. Okay,
it was nice house, about 200, and I was amazed because it was an FHA loan, but they got a mortgage to cover the down payment too.
Yeah, the Mishta. I bet it was Mishta.
I think it was FHA started with a C. Something. It was an FHA program. It was a 3.5, but then it was, or maybe, I don't know, but then it was, and I just thought that was kind of off, you know? It didn't strike me. It struck me as something that was just like, are we getting back to?
No, I'm glad that you asked that. Here's the thing. So the #1 down payment assistance program in the state of Michigan is called MSHDA. Michigan State Housing Development Authority. It's a second mortgage. It's not a free grant.
Okay.
So we have to educate the home buyers and help them understand that you're going to be able to come into this purchase with a minimum of 1% of your own money.
Right.
And it'll get everything else will get covered. But you also have to understand you're borrowing over 100% of the value of the sales price. I shouldn't say value, but you're borrowing over the sales price of this house to get in this house.
Right.
So,
right.
As long as they're like eyes wide open, fully educated about it, it's fine. Especially in our market now where home prices continue to go up. The supply is so low, the demand is so high that we only anticipate values to continue to increase. So it's not like the credit crisis of 2008. It's completely different.
That's good. That's good to know. Yeah, when I saw it, I just kind of thought, I just knew that they didn't have much down, and I just thought,
Well, because you had a fiduciary responsibility to that client. Like, I don't want to put you in a house you can't afford.
Exactly.
That's probably why you were thinking.
And at the same time, I know how competitive it is and how little time. I just, it was interesting. I just thought. But you touched on a good point. It's like it is probably more about, especially being educated. I assume those, that second mortgage is probably a shorter term.
Actually, it's 0 interest, and you don't make monthly payments on it.
Oh, really?
It's called a silent second. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
The amount you get for the down payment gets assigned as the second lien holder on your title to your home, and then you have to repay it if you sell that home or refinance that loan. So once you get out of that loan, you do have to pay that back, but they don't earn any interest on you, and you don't make monthly payments on it.
Really? That's how Mishta works, huh? Interesting.
And they are getting ready to increase their sales price limit, because right now they're limited to $224,500, so it's kind of boxing people out. But they are, I was told by the rep that they are going to bump it up.
Do you do a lot of those Mishtas?
I do a fair amount, yeah.
They take a little longer?
They do. Yeah. On average, they take 5 to 10 business days longer. In the summertime. Okay. In the wintertime, they run like maybe an extra 2 days.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when they get busy,
it gets busier. Yeah. I've heard longer even, but I'm assuming it also just depends on the institution as well. Sometimes they can, that's going to be a little bit down to that. That's good. It's good to know. Good to know. It makes me feel better. Maybe we won't see well, if we see an economic collapse, that's probably going to be why I put it that way.
Right. It'll be for a different reason.
Yeah. Plenty of other reasons out there. That's
funny. As we get closer up to wrapping up the show, like I said at the beginning of each episode, we pretty much go over our last goal, how we were able to work on those. So what we do at the end is pretty much set a goal. Do you guys have a specific goal maybe in the next month or your main goal for next year? Some things you truly want to focus on. And then, obviously next time we meet up on the Under the Rug podcast going over that. And then, possibly having you on the show again. And when we do, being able to follow up on that goal. So, if you guys don't mind elaborating on any of your personal goals.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be the cleaning thing. So I got registration, get some insurance, and then I hope that by the next podcast, which will be about a month from today, I hope to have landed a couple jobs and see how it goes. Have something to report. If I don't, I gotta definitely ask myself why. It shouldn't be too hard. At least I'll certainly try. I got plenty of people to talk to. I'll send you some info if you're interested.
For sure. I'll spread the word.
Okay, I appreciate
I'm good at that.
Yeah, and hopefully it just might be something that would be that. I hope there's good utility in it, and I hope that people do. Think it's a good idea. I think it would, for me as a buyer, I would definitely think it would be something I would like to avoid having to do moving into another house.
Agreed.
So from that standpoint,
we'll
see. Yeah, we'll see. Definitely, that's my goal.
How about for you, Ms. Jen?
For me, I am gonna try to do. I get most of my business from real estate agents, so I need to do a realtor facing either a virtual class or an event every month.
Ooh.
Every month.
Okay.
I need to do something in front of a group of agents.
That's good. That's a good goal. That's a really good goal.
I think we somewhat have a similar goal. I get a lot of my business from realtors. I don't want to shy away from that because I understand that's a part of the business. I mean, home inspections and real estate just kind of join together. However, something that me and Korbin and Savannah is working on is building those keywords and really adjusting our overall Google profile. I would say a couple times out the month, we'll get a few, Google calls saying, hey, we looked you up on Google, you got some good reviews, we're looking for an inspection. And that feels incredible. However, I want to get that to a weekly basis so we can continue keeping Marcus, Mr. Collins, and other future inspectors busy, plus getting those calls or referrals from realtors and mortgage officers like yourself. Just because I know what a lot of homeowners don't know is that they kind of get able to pick their own inspector.
Yes, I agree.
And some don't know that, and they allow the realtor to say, hey, use this person or use this. And I'm like,
get that.
So, and they should know the freedom that they have because at the end of the day, you're the person. So I think, just like anything, if you're getting your car fixed, you're getting your hair done, you're gonna hire the person who you feel best is fit to your personality and the service that you want and looking for. And like I said, I think we simply offer things for free that other home inspectors don't do. And I think a lot of these first-time home buyers or people that's going to be waiving these inspections need to know to prevent any issues. So like I said, simply when they go to sell, they can make sure they don't run into any major issues and different things like that. So building up an overall strong presence on Google and continue striving through social media will be our main goal and different things like that. So Ms. Jen, please tell the people where they can find you, how they can locate you, and everything like that.
For sure. Easiest way to find me is just text me, 616-218-7510. Just text Jen.
We'll put you on the website too for our. We like to put all the episodes up. We'll get some information from you and put it all up on there too.
Cool.
And tell them again who you're with.
I am with Stockton Mortgage in Grand Rapids.
Gotcha.
How big is Stockton Mortgage?
So nationwide, we're in 23 states.
Wow.
We are the only West Michigan office, and we're located on the corner of Diamond and Wealthy. So we are uptown.
Okay.
Uptown, baby. I'm by all the delicious restaurants.
Probably passed a million times, just so you know. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why we met and bumped into each other on Wealthy Street.
Add it up.
Funny. Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Very good.
But no, Jen, we appreciate you coming on to the show, being a part of Under the Rug podcast. Like I said, wrapping up our 4th episode. And like I said, looking forward to having a great year. We want to once again just thank you and continue success in your field and the great things that you're doing. So we appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
Definitely.
And that'll be a wrap here at Under the Rug podcast.